Welcome to the final episode of the semester for Mason Sports Insider. I am Tyler Byrum alongside Dan Ward, and we are hoping to go out for a bang today because, as we mentioned, last episode of the semester, we have a lot to go over before we head to break.
Yep, we won't be seeing you guys until after the winter break, so in advance, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Holidays, and a Happy New Year. But we did have some basketball this past week, so let's get you caught up with that to start, beginning with the men's basketball team who opened up play last week with a home game against the University of Northern Iowa, the same team that knocked off then number one UNC earlier in the season. Mason opened up the scoring, but it was the Panthers who started the game strong, going on a 10-2 run to begin things. They increased their lead to its largest of the game at 27-9 before Mason ignited for a 15-4 run of their own to close the gap to within 5 with a minute left in the half. The final bucket, however, would come from the Panthers' Paul Jesperson to give them a 33-26 lead at halftime. The second half was a game of runs with the teams battling back and forth, and Mason coming within one at 53-52 with under 6 minutes to play. Unfortunately, the sharp shooting of the Panthers was too much for the Patriots to handle as they went on a 10-0 run to take a double-digit lead. Mason knocked the lead down to single digits with 24 seconds left, but they ultimately would fall to Northern Iowa 73-65. The Patriots won the rebounding battle 49-32, but simply had no answer for Northern Iowa's 10 three-pointers made. Mason had 3 players in double figures, led by Marquise Moore with 15, Otis Livingston II with 13, and Marko Gujanicic with 10.
The team would follow up that game by revisiting their rivalry against former CAA competitor James Madison. The Patriots, however, would have to deal with the suspension of senior Marko Gujanicic, which we will get to later on in the episode. While coming into this matchup, the Dukes were on a 5-game winning streak. Getting the start, replacing Gujanicic, was Jalen Jenkins, hoping to break out of the scoring drought that he has been in this season. Jenkins, however, would not be able to break out of his funk, and the offense would struggle mightily against the Dukes. It would start with a 5-minute scoring drought in the first half, allowing the Dukes to pull away and lead at the halftime break 30-18, Mason's lowest half total of the entire season. In the second half, not much would change. The team could not get the ball inside to Siobhan Thompson, who would finish tied for the team high with 9 points and also 9 rebounds. Turnovers, fouls, and bad shot attempts would basically do the team in, and the Patriots would lose 69-46. The team now stands at 4-7, looking at our giant killer Atlantic 10 standings, still sitting in the basement of the conference. And look at Fordham with an 8-1 record. They're sitting near the top of the A10. They're only trailing George Washington for the conference lead. So, lost to Northern Iowa. We understand that. That's fine. Lost to JMU. It's kind of,
They're a good team
But
right
yeah,
now.
they're a good team right now. They're on a run. I mean, of course, it's a rivalry game. You always want to win rivalry games. But just things, it's a mid-season struggle right now for the team.
Without a doubt, it is a rebuilding year. We do have to keep that in mind. And the Marko Gujanicic suspension is definitely going to hurt the team. It was a violation of the team and university. It's going to be under institutional review, so we do not know exactly when he'll be back, if he'll be back. But there is a silver lining to his suspension in that this is a rebuilding year, and Marko is going to be graduating next year. While he has been playing very well for the team this year, it does allow the Danny Dixons and the DeAndre Abrams and others to get some more playing time, which will be more beneficial to them in the future. So we don't like to see Marko go down, and perhaps hopefully he'll be back for this year, but there is a silver lining behind it.
Yeah, one thing also, you mentioned it's a rebuilding year. I kind of want all Mason fans to kind of realize that this is a rebuilding year. And while you may be frustrated, I mean, believe me, I understand your team letting you down. I mean, I am a fan of the Dallas Cowboys after all. But it's going to happen. It's a rebuilding year. Yes, we had 2 fantastic wins during the season against Ole Miss and Oklahoma State. We had encouraging results against Northern Iowa. But then we have losses against Manhattan, Towson, JMU. It's going to happen. It's going to happen in a year like this where you're going to get fantastic games, where you're going to get games that you do not understand what is going on. And it's just with the mix of the old-style guys, with Siobhan Thompson, before this game, Marko Gujanicic, Jalen Jenkins, to Patrick Holloway. You have the new guys that are trying to work in Paulson's system, Otis Livingston, Jair Greer, DeAndre Abram. It's just, that's what happens with a rebuilding year, a coach's transition year, that it's not going to be, it's all going to get fixed with a new head coach and a new team. It's going to get fixed. It's not. It's going to be a rough year for Mason fans. Hopefully things turn itself around, and we have seen goods, we have seen positives. I mean, heck, Otis having a fantastic year, Jay Guerrero's having a fantastic year. They're going to be 4-year
Mhm.
starters with this team going forward. But it's just Mason fans, before you start accusing and getting upset, it is a rebuilding year. You have to understand.
It's also going to be a process. Dave
Mhm.
Paulson begins that process. Bring him in. He's been able to recruit some talented freshmen, as Tyler mentioned. Now let it build, let it build. We'll bring in more recruits. They will be able to gain more chemistry, and in years to come. We apologize, seniors. This may not be the way you wanted to have your basketball team go out, but all you freshmen and sophomores, and even the juniors, be looking forward to the upcoming seasons.
Yeah, one thing I don't understand though is, given that I said all of that, is that why aren't they giving Siobhan Thompson the ball inside? I'm not going to include the Northern Iowa game, but in the games that we've lost, Towson, JMU, is just for some reason we cannot get the ball inside to Thompson. Thompson's a big guy. He's normally taller than his opponents, and he's normally a better player. It's just for some reason we're not working it inside, and when we do work it in, he just pops back out. He only had 9 points in this game against JMU, a game that he could have honestly been the dictated play the entire game. But it's just they weren't able to get the ball inside to him, and I think that might be something else that the team is struggling with. And Siobhan, I mean, a lot of people are talking about maybe NBA draft sleeper pick. If he's going to get that step forward, he has to get the ball more.
Yeah, and that comes with the play of the guards, and that might just be part of it from earlier in the season when other teams were double teaming him and they saw a lot of turnovers by Siobhan. That could kind of lead to a little bit of uncertainty by the guards not wanting to give him the ball just because they're a little worried about trusting him with the ball. However, if you're out there, players on the Mason team, get Siobhan the ball because he is a powerful force and he should easily be getting 10 and 10 a game, not 9 and 9. Should be more like 15, 10, 20 and 15. That's the type of player he can be, but he has to get the ball, and that's just something that they're not doing. Whatever the reason, I'm sure they'll be able to work it out. As long as they work it out by conference play, that'll be the most important thing.
Yeah, and one other thing to look out for every winter break is, seems like Patrick Holloway and the coach haven't really been getting along the past couple games. I mean, his minutes have been down ever since suspension was over. Just something doesn't seem right when he gets in the game. It's not the same Patrick Holloway, and it might have been the suspension. It might have been some off-season issues. We don't know, but it's just something to look forward to going into this winter break. And if you have time to watch games, to maybe try and put your input into what's going on there.
We move on now to the women's basketball team. They were back in action at home, taking on the former CAA rival, the Delaware Blue Hens. This was the first time the two teams faced one another since 2013, back when the Blue Hens had current WNBA star Elena Deladon. This game was a thriller from the opening tip with a very exciting finish. Mason got the scoring started when Tiffany Paget knocked down a three, but it was the Blue Hens who would take the lead after the first quarter, 15-12. While Mason was able to get the ball into the paint and score offensively, the Blue Hens used the three-point shot to their advantage in the second to hang on to the lead. With under a minute left in the second, and the Patriots down, Chenieri Bell grabbed an offensive rebound off a missed foul shot by Taylor Brown and quickly got it back out to Brown for a three to complete the 4-point possession and close the Blue Hens' lead to 3 at halftime. After an evenly matched third, the Patriots took the lead late in the fourth thanks to 4 straight points by Bell. With the shot clock unplugged and the Patriots clinging to a 3-point lead, the Blue Hens had one last chance to send it into overtime. Who would take the shot other than the leading scorer in the game, ice-cold Hannah Jardine, who knocked down a tightly contested three at the buzzer to send the game into overtime. It was all about defense in the first overtime, with each team only scoring 6 points apiece. The hero this time was Mason's Tiffany Paget, who knocked down a shot with only 12 seconds left to force the game to go into a second overtime. In this second and final overtime period, the iron nerves of the Patriots shined through as the team won the extra period 18-11 to win the game 90-83. Taylor Brown had a season-high 28 points, while Hannah Jardine of the Blue Hens led all scorers with 31. Paget and Bell each registered double-doubles for the Patriots with 13 points, 12 rebounds, and 11 points, 12 rebounds, respectively. The team says goodbye to Eagle Bank Arena for 2015 with a win. And looking at the Giant Killer Atlantic 10 standings, with a 4-6 record, Mason currently sits in 11th place.
Yeah, what a gut check win for the Patriots. I mean, I believe looking into that matchup, I believe Delaware, George Mason, pretty evenly matched teams. It was basically a toss-up, and I mean, the play kind of showed that. I mean, it took 50 minutes to play in order to determine a winner.
Yeah,
so long game.
It was definitely a head-to-head clash coming into the game. It was a very exciting game, one worthy of 2 overtimes. It was neither team led up at any point. The largest lead, I believe, at any point was only like 6 points or something like that. It was very tightly contested the entire game, and it really showed the team's nerves and how they've been building this season. We mentioned the iron nerve shown through in the final overtime period, as well as the conditioning of the team. They were well conditioned. They were able to bring people off the bench throughout the game, and Coach Millicent is utilizing the depth of her team, and that's what really was able to get them that double overtime win.
Yeah, you mentioned the depth, though. In that game, Taylor Dodson, she went down hard at one point in that game. I hope she's okay. I saw that, and I believe just maybe lost her breath after the injury, though. She didn't go back into the game, so it could be something more. We hope she's okay. Taylor, wishing you the best. But I believe that could be actually a huge potential loss to the team if she misses any time. I know they have a long break here, basically almost 2 weeks, because their next game isn't until this Saturday coming forward, and their last game was on Monday. So a long time, but if they lose Taylor Dodson, that's a big person inside, a big rebounder that the team has really thrived off of this season, that if she's not able to come back immediately, it could hurt the team.
Yeah, a wild elbow to the chest, still waiting for results and to hear if she will miss any time, but what she brings to the team really doesn't show up in the stat books that often. She will get her rebounds, she will get her points, but really she brings the heart and the hustle. She is the heart and soul of this team, and her basketball IQ is off the charts. She is essentially a coach on the floor. Usually that's your point guard, but really for this team it's Taylor Dodson. She's aware of everything that's going on in the game. I noticed last game there were different things that were going on where she said, hey, do this, coach, we're doing this, right? And she said, coach, sub me out. At the end of the game, the team likes to do an offense for defense substitutions where bringing Christy Makube offensively, bringing in Bridget O'Donnell defensively, bringing Taylor Dodson defensively, bringing Kara Wright offensively. Exchanges like that. Dodson was the one aware, and at the end of the game, she actually said to Coach Millicent, coach, sub me out, bring in the offensive players. And then Millicent said, oh yes, good job, Taylor. So sometimes having that player on the court to help out the coach really helps. So losing Taylor Dodson in that regard is really what's going to hurt this team. Again, swift recovery. Hopefully you'll be back soon, Taylor.
Moving forward now, the wrestling team came home for their first home duels, of the season after losing 2 matches at the Grapple at the Garden. Their first opponent would be Eastern Wrestling League opponents Clarion, a team that Mason finished higher than in the final EWL standings last season. In this duel, the competition went back and forth, with both teams winning 5 of the matches. Fortunately for Mason, Vincent Rodriguez in the 133 weight class and Greg Flournoy in the 157 both earned Mason 5 points in their respective matches. The biggest wins, however, came from Ryan Forrest in the 174 weight class with a 6-0 medical forfeit and a win by the heavyweight by redshirt freshman Matt Boss to clinch a 22-18 green and gold victory. The second match against Grand Canyon was a lot less dramatic as the squad claimed a 22-9 victory. Once again, Rodriguez, Flournoy, and Voss notched victory for Mason. Other Patriots, Blake Rollo, Teon Anthony, Kameth Koroma, Patrick Davis, and Luke Lute would claim a match victory on the weekend as the team finished 2-0, now 2-2 overall on the season. So, basically from this weekend, got that we're actually a really strong wrestling team after the Grapple of the Garden netted 2 losses earlier in the year. One thing I find interesting, though, Sahid Cargbo. He didn't participate in his weight class in either of these matches. I don't believe he's wrestled all season long. He's in the 144. That could be a huge replacement if he's on injury or whatever's going on with him. That's a huge loss for the team right now.
Yeah, without a doubt. We're not sure what's exactly wrong with him. Maybe if it's a coaching decision, what the issue is, but we'll see how he progresses throughout the season if he does get some playing time and some matches in. But we mentioned in a couple episodes earlier that the depth of this team is going to be very important. And so far in these first 2 matches, although they didn't fare well at the Garden, they did very well this past weekend at home. And we see that there are some players that are consistently wrestling, the Vincent Rodriguez's and the Flournoys and Voss. But there are few wrestlers that are somewhere at the Garden, some are now wrestling this match, and we're still figuring out which players are going to work well. But having that depth and those options is looking pretty nice for the team.
Yeah, and that's a huge part of how the wrestling season develops, especially collegiately. Early on, you're able to test all these younger wrestlers, see how they actually progress in the off-season, see how they actually do going forward. Other impressive weekends, Teon Anthony, I mentioned he got a win earlier. He's actually the replacement for Sahid Cargbo in that 141 weight class. He's a redshirt freshman, 1 win, 1 loss, encouraging results from him. Also, I saw an impressive weekend from Ryan Forrest. He also went 1-1. Another interesting, though, Cameron Houston, he got injured for Mason. That could be a huge loss Kind of thought he was going to have a big role on the team this year, but as you mentioned, there's a couple locks on the team in the 133 with Vincent Rodriguez, 157, Greg Flournoy, 165, Patrick Davis, Ryan Forrest, as I mentioned, he's proved himself so far, and also same with Matt Voss in the 285 heavyweight. He looks to be able to fill into that huge role that Jake Kettler was in last season.
Well, that'll do it for this week's edition of Mason Sports Insider. Here is a look at the remaining schedule prior to winter break.
Yep, we'll start it off now with the women's and men's basketball team who have a doubleheader on Saturday. First one will be the women's basketball team hosting Air Force. That game will actually be at the RAC. So don't show up to Eagle Bank Arena. You'll actually be seeing graduation there.
Yep, and then the teams will be off until the new year of 2016. First game for the women's basketball team will be the second, where they take on St. Louis in St. Louis. And then also the men's basketball team on that same day will be traveling to VCU for the A10 opener.
Yep, both those games are A10 openers for the teams. Men's volleyball team will also kick off their season against UCLA at home at the RAC. That will be on January 5th at 7 o'clock.
And January 9th, the track and field Father Diamond Invitational begins, the season opener at the Fieldhouse. So a lot of action happening as soon as the new year starts.
Yeah, we'll miss a lot of those season previews for those guys. We'll have, right when we come back, we'll have to jump right into the middle of the season for the men's volleyball and the track and field teams going forward. Well, that's all we got for you this week. Make sure you check out our graphic sponsor and media provider, Giant Killer, at their website, giantkiller.co. For one final time this semester, I am Tyler Byrum alongside Dan Ward, and we will see you guys next year, actually, 2016. See you guys later.
Hello again. It is that time of the week, time for the Giant Killer Play of the Week. This time, we head over to the women's basketball team who took on the Delaware Blue Hens. With time running down in the overtime period, Mason needed a basket, and who do they turn to but junior Tiffany Paget, who takes the ball on the wing, gets a screen by Christy McCube, drives in, knocks down the layup to send the game into double overtime where the Patriots would ultimately win it 90-83. That was the play of the week, our final play of the week for the 2015 year. We'll see you in the 2016 year. Until then, happy holidays, and again, we'll see you next year.